Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Balanced Life. We're conversations that connect to a healthier you. And we have a really important subject to talk about today. And I'm hoping that you could become part of this conversation too. So if you're watching us on Facebook, you can watch us live and call in. Our call-in number here is 323-284-7826. Or you could go to ubngo.com, watch us, and then call in directly and ask my guest a question today, because we have a very compelling and something that I think is pretty rampant of a subject to talk about today. And so my guest today is Elena Rybko, a psychotherapist who strives for all of her clients to achieve the happiness level they deserve. She helps individuals, couples, and children find inner strength and better deal with life transitions, relationship problems, mood disorders, addictions, and much more. Utilizing a wide variety of evidence-based techniques, Elena empowers her clients by providing them with skills that can be helpful immediately, followed by deeper explorations and transformations if necessary. Today, we're going to discuss Elena's specialty of addressing eating disorders and various issues connected to food, weight, and exercise. Elena helps her clients to uncover and overcome hidden emotional triggers connected to these issues. So will you please help me welcome my guest to the show today, Elena Rybko. Hi, Elena.
Hi.
Thank you for coming and joining me today.
Thanks for having me here.
I'm really happy to have you. We met at a networking event not too long ago. I want to say maybe about 5 weeks ago or so, I think it was.
Something like
and I'm like, you have to come on my show because we talked about what your specialty was. And I think it is so big, especially here in the entertainment capital of the world where we tape the show, which is right across the street from Warner Brothers Studios. But is body image and people's emotional reasons for having a distorted version of that. And before we get into that, I want to hear a little bit about you, your background. I hear an accent. I want to know where you're from and what brought you here.
Well, I'm originally from Russia. I immigrated here by myself at the age of 20. You know, at some point, I mean, that story is really long and really interesting, but at some point I ended up on a Greyhound bus because I couldn't afford a plane ticket from Texas, and I ended up showing up to New York City with just $20 in my pocket because all of my luggage was lost in Atlanta.
Oy.
So it was me in New York City, $20, my little shorts and my little top.
And what was the reason why you wanted to come to the States? What did you have in mind? To study here?
Well, in Russia, I was already finishing up my college, and I was supposed to be a linguist and teacher of two languages, which is English and French. But I was just realizing that, I can achieve only a certain amount because there is so much corruption. There is just a certain way of living where, the glass ceiling hits you very, very, it happens much faster than here.
Yes.
So I wanted to give myself better opportunity, and I really believed, even though I lived in Russia, and I really believed that I have the power to design my own life the way I want and to start living it.
And so you just had a small amount of money and a little suitcase and your shorts and t-shirt and took off by yourself. 100% by yourself.
100% by myself. It was a major culture shock. It doesn't matter that I already wrote, most of my dissertation on this topic, how to overcome culture shock. But there I was in the middle of New York, and it was incredible. But several years later, I proved the popular saying: "If you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere."
So you stayed in New York for a little bit.
I stayed in New York for about 7-8 years, and then I moved to California about 11 years ago.
And why did you switch and move to California?
Well, because while I was living in New York, I met my wonderful husband, who was originally from California and who turned out to be Russian by descent. So that, he was finishing his studies there, and we decided to move to warmer California because I was so done with winters also.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. So when did you start studying psychology and psychotherapy?
Well, even when I was studying languages and teaching, my dissertation back in Russia was already on psychological topic, how to overcome culture shock and things like that. But when I moved to United States, I realized that's what I really would like to do. And back then, I didn't even know what kind of career I would have. I just knew this is my passion, and it so happened that I was able to study what I loved, and I'm so thankful that now I can do what I absolutely love. It's absolute passion of mine.
I can tell. Mm-hmm. I could tell when I met you that it was, and the subject being so pertinent to this day. So tell me about a little bit about you and your method of the way you handle your practice and what you've gotten into and why.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I feel like my passion of why I'm doing what I'm doing comes definitely from my personal experience. In my personal experience, I had to sort of reinvent and redesign myself and my life a couple of times at least from scratch. So I believe that no matter where you're coming from, no matter what kind of negative experiences you've had in the past, you can turn them into strengths, and you can design the life that you would like to live, and you can live it.
I agree with you 100%. Being a student of reinvention, as we just talked about before the show, myself, I agree with you 100%. So you have a special passion for helping people with emotional issues around weight.
Yes.
And body image. How did that come about? And let's talk a little bit about what that is and how you are helping people with that.
Yes, so I specialize in helping people with eating disorders and anything that has to do with body image, weight, food, and exercise. So the way I got into that, I remember one of my professors said, well, when you're working with clients, you're going to deal with all kinds of addictions, and especially, he said something like 80% of your people who you're going to be dealing with, they're going to be dealing with some kind of addictions. You better get good at it. And I went ahead and I specialized in eating disorders, which is, if you think about it, is the worst addiction, because you have to eat. You cannot abandon food and never touch it again. You have to learn how to balance it.
That's right. People have, I see this in what I do as a nutrition coach, people have so many issues over food. And unfortunately, we have advertising and things that are marketed to us to perpetuate thinking something because it tastes good is good for you.
Exactly.
And so there's those issues, and then all of a sudden you don't look or feel the way you want to, and then you have to sort of undo and unravel what you did. But a lot of these things that we're eating have addictive components to them, addictive chemicals and things like that if they're processed. That keeps us wanting more anyway. So then we have to kind of cure an addiction to some of those chemicals on top of what you're dealing with is emotional eating and issues. Let's talk a little bit about that. What kind of eating disorders do you see in your office?
Well, I work with pretty severe cases, which is, like severe anorexia, bulimia, and, if you will, an overexercise addiction, right? So if I see these issues on a huge spectrum, so if somebody who's really suffering, who needs maybe residential care or to see a therapist several times a week, right? Who needs to work with the nutritionist, to an average person who's constantly trying, setting these weight goals and trying to lose weight, and just to find themselves back sabotaging their goals, yo-yoing and coming back. But what it creates a constant failure on their part. There they go, trying something new, pushing themselves hard, restricting certain foods that they would like to eat, but then they feel overall as a failure.
Right.
Yeah.
So it just makes it worse because they're getting worse rather than better each time. They feel like their success is in whether or not they lose the weight, if it is that kind of disorder where they want to be skinnier. What do you attribute to these eating issues? A lot of emotional childhood traumas or problems?
Well, it's a couple of things. So definitely when I work with my patients, that part is really important, realizing what happened in the past, what did you learn about food, what did you learn about body, and you'll be really surprised what you find in the childhood, to the point of, I'm dealing with I'm helping a person right now who has been abused with food. So she was literally force-fed. And now she's obese, and she's, dealing with a lot of emotional eating. So with somebody like this, you can imagine that you can't just put them on a diet, because there is an emotional component.
It's got to get
and
cured.
You have to establish a new system where she can start taking care of her emotions with some other things but food.
So
right?
I know everybody's individual, and I know, ideally you shouldn't, we don't want to call out any of your patients, but so how would somebody like that deal? What steps would you take to dig deep into the emotional component and sort of make that part go away so they have a good relationship with food again?
So what we want to do, first I educate a lot, right? So first realizing that when you trying to meet an emotional need with food, it's never going to work. So let's say somebody's overeating emotionally because they feel lonely or because they feel bad about themselves. So let's say they eat food and it feels good in the moment, but it only lasts for a couple of seconds.
Right.
Then the shame cycle starts happening again, and you never actually meet the need. So I teach my clients to, if it's an emotional need, let's meet it with an emotional component. Maybe she needs to reach out. Maybe she needs to journal. Maybe she needs to go for a walk. Maybe she needs to cry if she remembers something traumatic. So figure out what is that emotional need is for you in the moment, and meet it with an emotional outlet.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
I see how that would work
because,
really well.
Right. And if you think about it, if we only ate because we're physically hungry, and we stopped when we physically full, none of us would have have any issues. Right?
And that's part of my practice is teaching people to know when they're full, because aside from the mindless eating that we do, because we're sitting and talking to somebody, we're at a party, we're grazing, whatever, that's a separate issue. But not to really know when you're full, to just keep eating, you're really filling up some sort of a void or some sort of an issue that you think until it gets topped off, you're not satisfied. There's something missing.
Exactly.
I see it a lot in my practice with my clients, and trying to help them have a new relationship to the way they eat and why they eat, and who they eat with, and how you don't have to fit in. You can fit out and do things a little different than the drinker and the happy hour. What do you call those when you get those happy hour nonstop food? There's person who wants you to eat all the fried food and stuff. There's a way you can have a new mindset around that, I think.
Exactly.
But it takes practice, like you said. It takes employing different ways of looking at food and how it makes you feel and why you're eating it in the first place.
Right. And I'll go back to what you were saying earlier, is that food and exercise and even weight is very emotional. So like if you just, imagine different commercials that we have, we constantly get sold food for emotional reasons. Oh, if you're lonely, eat this chips. I remember one commercial that said exactly that. So we have these messages: eat all of this so you'll feel happy.
That's right.
Right? That's one message. And then the next commercial could be like, oh, no, there is summer coming. You need to lose all this weight. So what ends up happening is that we're starting to, when it comes to hunger and fullness cues, we start following the external cues.
Yes.
And not internal.
That's
And
right.
people are so far away from intuitive eating, and when we see the disruption of the relationship between the body, because on one hand, they constantly punishing their body, right?
Right.
Being too hard on the body at the gym, punishing themselves
Right.
that they overate maybe yesterday, and now today they're
They've
maybe
got to go
restricting.
run it off.
Or run it off.
I have
And-
long discussions with my clients about that.
Right. And
Doesn't work.
constant bashing of their bodies
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, it's and so they've got the physical bashing, the mental bashing. It's all going. It is so It seems like you're not going to be happy, especially in LA, New York, some of the bigger cities,
Right.
unless you're thin enough or unless you look a certain way in clothes. And I think the media, again, the advertising world feeds into our happiness is based on how we look. And there are many shows, I'm not going to name them, but there are many shows out there that actually put the big exclamation point on that and really highlight that's true.
Yeah.
When in fact, it's anything but true.
Yeah.
So I imagine in your practice, you have to deal with people finding that they have such a body dysmorphia. They just have a relationship with their body that they think they have to look a certain age or a certain way, or they won't be happy.
Exactly.
And I think that's such a big issue.
Yes, it is a big
It's so-
issue. And you just said it beautifully. We get fed this idea that, I'm sure lots of your clients think, oh, once I get to this weight, I will be happy.
That's right.
Or once I get to
Life
this...
will be perfect.
Yeah, or once I get to this weight, I will be able to be sexual or feel sexy or
Get the
whatever
guy
that
I
is.
want. Get the job I want.
Exactly. And this thinking never works when it comes to happiness. You have to learn how to be happy in the moment and not concentrated on the product. I've never seen a client. Have you ever seen a client who would lose their weight, get to their weight goal, and be like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy now"? Nobody who says, "Oh, when I get $1 million, I'll be happy." I don't think there will be either.
Absolutely
And
not.
the problem with this is, and this is the cornerstone, the biggest problem with this, is that we attach weight to the value of ourselves.
Yes, I think. Go ahead.
And
Finish
we
what you're gonna say.
create a very, very fragile system for our self-esteem. Meaning, okay, if I lost weight, but then I wake up in the morning and I feel bloated, my whole system goes down because it becomes based on one external thing that is very, very changeable. It's changeable with Thanksgiving, it's changeable with motherhood, it's changeable with age, and we cannot be happy overall as person or as a society when we're putting our whole value on this external
I
cue.
agree 100%. 100%. There's so much value placed on that it throws us an emotional roller coaster, ups and downs based on, exactly how we wake up in the morning based on what we ate yesterday or what we didn't eat yesterday or if our tummy is flat enough. how can your happiness be built on whether your tummy is flat enough? You know, it
Exactly.
just should not be. And yet it's got such a high level of importance. So let's talk about that as parents. I have 2 girls. I know you have a daughter. I know you work with clients that are probably wanting you to work with their daughters, or you are
Definitely.
working with their kids. How do we start off from day one with all this external stuff coming at us to make sure that our children have a good relationship with food and their body image?
Yes, and so what we've just established, that we get fed this idea, and I think what everybody's not doing is not standing up to this idea. We are all guilty of this, right? So when we go to a party, we start saying what everybody else is saying. Oh, I shouldn't eat this cake. I've been very bad, right? So
Right.
or we start, telling each other, oh my God, you look great. Did you lose some weight? I mean, that's just in our lexicon already. We connect on this stuff, and that's horrible.
And we need to hear that stuff, right? So
Right.
we want to hear it because it's the way we get the warm fuzzies and feel good about ourselves.
So I say you have to start like a personal revolution. And I've started it many years ago, where I told my girlfriends, it doesn't make me feel good when you're talking badly about yourself. So slowly, first you shock people, they're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. But slowly you kind of teach people, almost train people that, hey, in my house, we're not going to talk badly about our bodies. We're going to eat food and enjoy it.
Yeah.
We're not going to say, oh my God, I look horrible in these jeans, And that's because with working with eating disorders, I remember one client, and we were trying to figure out when her eating disorder started. She said, I know exactly when it started. I saw my mom. She didn't say anything. She looked at herself in the mirror and grabbed her fat from the side. And I thought in that moment, if my mom doesn't love herself, then I shouldn't love myself.
Oh, wow.
So
That's big.
that kind of stuff happens all the
the
time,
time.
because our daughters and our sons, they see themselves as extension of us.
That's right.
And then when they say, I shouldn't eat bread, right? Just give them 1 month and they're going to say the same thing again. So it starts from your own relationship with your body and with, body image, food, exercise. It just has to become balanced for them to have a fighting chance against culture.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's, I've been in book club for over 20 years, and it's all women, and we're hard pressed to be in there, and especially because over 20 years, we are now. I'm well in my 60s, but everybody else is kind of going through the 50s now, getting towards 60, and we're hard pressed to get in there, and we do discuss the book, and we do discuss many things in life, but there's always how to get rid of this wrinkle, what's the latest and greatest in exercise, what's the latest recipe that we should be sharing that has, no calories and blah, blah, blah. And it's part of why I shifted gears and reinvented into the health business, because I saw this chaos around me, around food and exercise being so important to whether or not, again, we had a fulfillment of our lives. And it should come down to being healthy.
Exactly.
What are you putting in your body, as opposed to how are you feeding it for the way you look? It shouldn't be about the way you look is the secondary thing. The
Exactly.
way you take care of yourself, everything else is going to fall into place if you get all those self-care things in order. And that's why I do what I do, is try to help people rethink the idea of happiness doesn't come from the way you look. It comes from the way you care and love yourself and others. And that's so important to get across to our kids who grow up with walking in a room who's, oh my God, I ate so much last night. And oh my God, I'm such a pig. And people giving themselves either high fives or beating themselves up over food and the way they've have or haven't done something.
Exactly. And
It's a challenge.
It's so scary, but my kids are pretty young, but I even see it in their little cartoons that some of these messages slide in about somebody being a certain way, being thin or being fat or whatever that is. And it's so scary.
What would be some quick runoff tips for parents now that you said that would be really good for us to first things to do with starting at a very young age?
So first of all, think of your home environment as this separate culture where you're in control of. You can control it, and you can say, you know what? In a very gentle way, we're not going to talk, we're not going to have fat talk, we're not going to have diet talk, we're not going to talk badly about any sort of foods. We're going to talk about food in a way that it's energy.
Right.
It's not going to be emotional, right? Oh, here you go, you're crying, here you go, eat some candy.
That's our society.
Right.
Yeah. We celebrate things with food. We give rewards with food.
Celebrating is fun. I mean, you can still enjoy food.
That's right.
You can enjoy the whole variety of food. You can welcome that idea. I always say, if you eat the rainbow, you feel the rainbow. Because with dieting, when people start taking out...
It's a good one. I'm going to borrow it.
This one, the other one. You really... I mean, with anorexia, for example, when people are restricting so much food, you see it in their emotions. They're restricting emotions.
Yes.
With somebody who's overdoing it, they are volatile in their emotions. So it's a true balance you have to practice. All of the variety, all of the rainbow, and... have this kind of positive attitude about food.
Oh, this is great. And we are, our time is up. It happens so fast. And we're going to revisit this because I'm going to have you back on the show. And perhaps we can put up some of these bullet point tips up on my Facebook page, Fit by Design. You can even do it on your Facebook page. Here's what we talked about today. Here's my recommendations to help your children have better, relationships with food or something. And that way the conversation does continue, and we can keep, that way you, my audience, can go ahead and ask Elena questions, and she can answer them on our Facebook pages. So it's Fit by Design. And Elena, what's your Facebook page?
It's Elena Rybko, Psychotherapy, Westlake Village.
And how can people get a hold of you directly if they want to come see you? Because you're out in Agoura, right?
I'm in Westlake Village. Yeah,
okay.
And my website is myhealingtherapy.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and my phone number is 805-206-9155.
Oh, there you go. She just said on the air. And final words of wisdom to leave my audience with today.
Well, food is really a key to happiness. So food and exercise, we have to find balance with it, and it really helps reestablish relationships not only with yourself but with the whole world.
Wow, that's big, very big.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a big subject too, so we're going to have some more time to discuss it, and we'll revamp it and have you come back in a few weeks if that's okay for you.
Sounds good.
Good. Thank you so much, and I want to thank
you
you for joining us today. I hope you got a little piece of information to help yourself or others, and do join the conversation on our Facebook page if you can. That's Fit by Design. And go ahead and remember to keep finding ways to connect to a healthier you. Thanks, you guys. See you next week. Bye.